Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about quite an interesting book about the topic of initiation. And the book I have here is called The Path of Initiation by J.S.Gordon, who is also John S. Gordon. And the subtitle is Spiritual Evolution and the Restoration of the Western Mystery Tradition. So here is the book, and it's quite a thick book. It's about 600 pages, so it also makes a great reference book. And this book has a lot of information and diagrams in here, and I'm just going to mention the summary of what this book is actually about. It actually is a summary of the process of spiritual initiation from aspirant to the higher adept. So I think a really good point to be made here about this book is that this is really about the path of initiation and seeing this as a process. And I have always seen initiation in that way. A lot of people think initiation is a one-off event that is bestowed upon them as an individual by a member of a society, an esoteric society or group. But I have always seen initiation as a process. This book, amongst other things, is mainly about the path of that was founded by H.P. Blavatsky and Alice Bailey. But it's not only about that. So I'll talk about what's in the book as well. But I think the whole topic of initiation is quite an important one. I think for people who think that initiation is a one-off event, I think that's really got more to do with a type of dedication where you could do self-initiation. This is more to do with initiation as a process and as a path, and the types of spiritual paths or esoteric paths that were more to do with secret or esoteric societies. So it's really that type of initiation. And what I think this also ties in with is the type of discussion about initiation that takes place these days, where a lot of founders of different traditions are saying, or masters of different traditions are actually saying that they personally do not, or any leader of any tradition does not actually bestow initiation on a member. That is something that develops within the member of the tradition or the student themselves or the aspirant. It is really not bestowed upon you, because it's either going to develop within you or it won't. You could get people who reach certain levels of certain traditions, and that's a recognition of that. But it's still not quite the same as being initiated. So I just wanted to talk about that because there's a lot of discussion about what initiation really is or what it seems to be. So I just wanted to talk about that to begin with. There's a lot of diagrams in this book, And I'm just going to show you a couple amongst many that are in the book, which is really helpful. For example, this one is about, it's called The Duality of Memory in the Mind of the Logos. And the information in this book as well is not only about the tradition that was founded by Blavatsky or Alice Bailey. It also includes ancient mysteries, and it also includes Gnosticism. There's even a bit of contrast or comparison to stages or the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, levels itself as well. So the duality of memory in the mind of the Logos, there's these different levels. The lower levels are to do with different levels of desire. Then the middle level is reason and imagination. And then above that, there are levels of will. So you have different levels of desire. Then the middle level is reason or imagination. Then you've got the upper levels of will. So here is this diagram. So you've got the levels of desire here, reason, imagination, and then the levels of will. So that'll give you an idea of the types of diagrams that are in the book. So that's really useful. So that's one of the types of diagrams that are in the book. The other one I have here is a diagram of the evolutionary progression through the cosmic physical plane. So this is more to do with the level of the Earth, planet Earth, and representing matter. Then you have, which is actually called the kingdom of matter. And then the middle kingdom is the kingdom of souls. And then you have the upper levels, which are the spiritual kingdom. So I'll show you that as well. So you have this here. You've got the kingdom of matter, the kingdom of spirit. That's matter and spirit. And the kingdom of souls is this one here, the middle level. So these are the types of diagrams that are in the book, which I really like. I think that is really, it just helps to explain the discussion that's in the book. So it's great. So now to talk about what's in the book. So there's a lot in here. It's divided into different parts. It's divided into 4 main parts. But to begin with, the introduction alone is worth reading through. The introduction is about 20 pages. That is definitely worth reading, just to begin with. Part 1 is consciousness and the evolutionary instinct. So chapter 1 of part 1 is about spirit, soul, and consciousness in general, which is great. And chapter 2 is human consciousness. So you've got different chapters there, all to do about consciousness and the evolutionary instinct. Part 2, very interesting, the historical background to the mysteries and path of initiation. So this is where you get down to chapter 6, because these are all continuing chapters. So you've got 5 chapters for part 1, then for part 2, it begins with chapter 6. You have got the sacred metaphor and allegory in relation to the ancient mystery traditions and associated initiation. Because a lot of the things that came later were really based on that. You know, the ancient mysteries from Egypt and Greece, for example, and Rome as well. Then chapter 7 is the Dark Ages and the rise of Western esotericism. Then for part 3, you have the stages of the initiatory path. Then that becomes chapter 8 for part 3. You have got modern spiritual probation and discipleship. Chapter 9, initiations of the threshold. And chapter 11 is various stages of adeptship. Then you go into part 4. Part 4 is the adept, brotherhood, and the mysteries. Now, when this adept brotherhood is mentioned, this is when you are starting to get into the theosophical movement and society of H.P. Blavatsky. Then you have the Jesus as Christ mystery after that. Then chapter 15, this is all to do with part 4. Then chapter 15 is the modern restoration of the mysteries. And then you have an epilogue, which is like a conclusion at the end. And that takes you up to 500 pages there. Then you have appendices as well at the back. And one of the appendices, for example, is about spiritual avatars. And as I was saying, there's lots of diagrams and charts in this book, which is really great. Then there's lots of, about 30 pages or so, 25 pages of notes, glossary, this is all at the back, great bibliography, and an index, which is very useful. This is a remarkable book. It's quite remarkable. J.S.Gordon was an esoteric expert. He wrote books on ancient Egypt as well, and he was a senior member of the Theosophical Society, very well regarded and respected, also as an academic. It's just a very truly remarkable book. I love the way that everything is all in one place, all in one book. Makes a great reference book. It's certainly not a book you're likely to read from cover to cover unless you're going to read it chapter by chapter and as you go along that way, because there's a lot of information to take in. But it is a truly remarkable book, and I think it's also a great book to thoroughly explain the actual path of initiation as process, and first of all putting this in a historical context, because that's really important. I think if you overlook that, you are getting some modern or some neo-contemporary view of this, and you're missing all of the context and missing pieces of the puzzle. I think for understanding better what initiation actually is, initiation rather than self-dedication, I think that needs to be better understood. So, of course, I thoroughly recommend this book. I think it's for people who really want to know more about the different paths, the actual paths of initiation as process, and just finding out a lot of different details and information, historical context that is just not mentioned enough these days. I think what you normally get also is bits and pieces of the overall topic in different separate books, whereas with this book it's all in one place, and it's just a very useful book. It's also for people who want to know more about the ideas of H.P. Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society, and Alice Bailey, who came after, who was actually a great esoteric theorist in her own right as well. And I also think it's really, really good to look at all of the different theories of both males and females, because a lot of people, particularly in the magic world, think most of these ideas mainly came from males, but I think when you look at this book, if you get this book and read, you will discover that there was a lot of female input into the foundation of the esoteric path and esoteric theories and ideas and concepts, as well as the other males that are probably better known. Okay, so this is a great book, The Path of Initiation by J.S.Gordon or John S. Gordon. It's quite readily available. I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.